Welcome back to Non-Billable Hours. My name is Odette, and this is a podcast by a lawyer for lawyers, law students, articling students, whoever wants to tune in, really. So this is another solo episode. I'm just on a little break releasing guest and video episodes for a month or two while I'm in a bit of a busy hearing season and setting up some wonderful guests to start sharing with you later. But in the meantime, you're stuck with just me. So one of the conversations I've been having a lot with myself recently that I thought would be helpful to record an episode on is the case against optimization. Now, what does that mean? I think a lot of lawyers have a belief, but we never really question this belief, which is that a good life is an efficient life, and an efficient life is a good life. And the skills that make us successful lawyers translate well into building a very efficient life. I have no problem with efficiency. I have nothing against efficiency as a concept. I do have a problem with efficiency when it is the guiding principle over everything else. So that's what I want to talk about today. And if you are new here, my name's Odette. I'm a litigator. I've been a litigator for over a decade, and I have this podcast to talk to lawyers about things that we really suck at talking about. And it's my hope that bringing up these things will make you more comfortable thinking about them with yourself and talking to your friends, colleagues, loved ones about these concepts as well, because you're not in this alone, even though sometimes it can feel that way. All right. So I'm going to start off with something that I think we all are quite aware of, which is lawyers are professional optimizers, right? We look for sometimes the shortest path, the most efficient strategy, the highest, return on our efforts, ROI, return on investment. You're the investment, your brain, your time, your blood, sweat, and tears. We look for the highest return on those things. And those skills can serve you really well in practice. Like, I pride myself on being quite efficient in what I do a lot of the time. So, I'm able to read quickly, to type quickly. I know how to do a lot of things because I do them a lot, right? So over time, over the past, decade plus, I become more efficient. And if you stay in this profession for a long time, yes, there become things that kind of become second nature to you. And that's not a bad thing. That's a very good thing, because it is what makes you go from being an articling student and sometimes taking 2 to 5 business days to draft a complex motion to being senior counsel and able to draft multiple pretrial briefs in a day or prep for a 2-day hearing in 3 to 4 days as opposed to maybe a week or 2. So efficiency, optimization, strategies, all those things to make you work smarter, not harder, those are all fantastic. Those skills serve you really, really well in practice. I think the pitfall with lawyers sometimes then becomes when we start applying that same logic to our lives all of the time, right? You optimize your calendar, you optimize your workout, what can give me the biggest sweat and the biggest calorie burn in the least amount of time. You optimize your vacations. You have only a certain number of weeks off a year, right? So instead of going and spending maybe one to 3 weeks in one place, you hop around because you're like, okay, we're going to get on a flight here. We're going to spend 3 days here, 2 days here. I only have 2 weeks before I need to be back in the office. I need to optimize this. I'm going to take the path of least resistance to all of these places. And somewhere along the way, we can sometimes forget how to experience life, how to embrace the imperfections and the inconveniences and the rerouting and the detours that can really a lot of the times be the things that might matter the most and mean the most to us at the end of the day. So I first want to talk about how I just hit my ankle. Literally injure myself just sitting. So first, I want to talk about how our profession trains us. And none of this is a knock on the law. Like, I just want to say, I think the legal industry, how we work and how we are trained and how we practice, like, I think there are so many incredible lawyers out there that practice for optimization and efficiency. And this is not a knock on using those strategies in the law a lot of the time. This is just about how we can kind of take a little bit of a step back from that when we are living our everyday lives. Granted, some people have more freedom and flexibility than others, but I think little things can make a big difference. So whatever resonates in this episode, please feel free to take. Whatever doesn't, don't, I guess. But I do want to talk about how the profession trains us to start. So, we learn to eliminate things that we don't require, right? So if opposing counsel sends you a brief with 20 cases and 5 of them just don't apply because you know the case, or that thing is no longer in dispute that those cases apply to, you're not gonna read that case. You're trying to optimize and become efficient and eliminate things that you don't need to do to save time. Obviously, who doesn't love saving time, especially when you are trying to finish your work so that you can get on with the rest of your day? So that's not a bad thing in the law, improving efficiency. There's a massive push for, I think, so many lawyers right now to use AI in our jobs, in our research, drafting, case strategy, all these things. I will save my thoughts on that for maybe another time, maybe not. That is a thing that is just a reality in the practice, is, improving those workflows and those efficiencies. Because you want to maximize your outcomes, you want to, minimize your risk. And a lot of times, especially if you own a firm, or if you do want to finish your work in 8 hours, you want to produce more in less time. Those are valuable professional skills, right? But the problem, at least I have with this, is when we then export those optimizations, I'm going to call them, into every corner of your everyday life, like your everyday personal life. Some examples: reading only self-improvement books. You don't read fiction. You don't read things that have dragons or fairies or remote islands or whatever. You only read things that will make you better in X. And I love self-improvement. I think self-work and self-improvement is fantastic. I think reading anything is great. Whatever you are reading is good for your brain. But that's not the only thing there is to read out there, right? Some other examples, and I know I'm guilty of this: listening to audiobooks or podcasts at, 2 or 3 times speed, just to kind of get through it more quickly and, digest more quickly. I definitely think there's a time and place for that. Sometimes the pace of something is a little slower and you're like, let's just pick this up a little bit. Or you're trying to find a place in the podcast or the book, but always listening to things at 2 or 3 times speed just to cram as much into your day as possible. That's an optimization strategy. Turning every walk into something else, whether it is a workout or a way to get in more audiobooks or a way to get through some work calls. I know some people like to walk and take work calls, which is fine. But if you turn every walk into something other than a walk, I don't know if that's the best for you or your brain, right? Choosing hobbies based on achievements only and not for the sake of the hobby or the activity is also an optimization. And again, I'm not demonizing any of these, and I'm not trying to make them all problematic. I think, everything I mentioned has its place, but it's if all of those things are in your life and you're optimizing all of them every single time you do them, I think that might be the most efficient way to get them all done. But then what are you really doing it for? Are you doing it for the journey, or are you doing it for the finish line? And I guess a question that we can all ask ourselves is like, when is life being lived, and when are you simply like project managing your life? I think both have a place, but I think at the end of the day, like, life is meant to be lived. And if you're just, working off a spreadsheet of cramming the most into every single day, ask yourself if that's really the type of existence that you want to live. I think one thing that I'm trying to learn and practice is embracing the inefficiencies, because a lot of times, like, the best things in life can be inefficient. For example, and I mean this in the best way possible, friendships. Friendships are not generally efficient. Sometimes you'll hang out with a friend and you will spend hours talking about nothing. Like you walk away and you're like, what do we even talk about? We talked the whole time, but I don't know what we talked about. You might spend an hour crossing the city to see your friend, you hang out with them for an hour and then spend an hour on your way home. That's not efficient. Maybe you could have just FaceTimed. You could have just had a Zoom, right? This cross-city friendship coffee could have been a Zoom call. That's inefficient. Walking or cycling isn't efficient. You could just drive. But yet that time spent with your friend, those hours talking about nothing, can become some of your most cherished memories, right? That's where you create bonds and form friendships and closeness. That's where you're heard and that's where you hear them and that's where you're seen. And those things are really important just to have other witnesses to our humanity, right? To our existence. Walking, totally inefficient. You could hop on the TTC, you could drive. But so much of my best thinking happens on long walks. Before I started running, I would pretty much every time I went into the office, instead of taking the streetcar from, the subway station home, I would walk the 4.5 kilometers. Sometimes I'd call my mom and chat for a little bit of the walk, but most of the time I would just, walk home and it would take 45 minutes, even though I know the streetcar would take 15. That's hella inefficient, but it was good for me. It got me outside after a day in the office. It kind of created that break between, work time and home time. And I did do a lot of thinking on those long walks, and I still do. Reading fiction, inefficient. What's the payoff when you're reading fiction? Yeah, maybe you're in a book club. I'm in a book club. I freaking love my book club. And yeah, one of the payoffs of reading is that I, show up with these amazing women and we chat about the books we've read and it's a lot of fun. But there's no like immediate payoff in terms of just reading a fiction book for yourself for, the joy of reading. Reading improves your imagination. It expands your mind. It expands your understanding of the human experience and, what people who are different from you might feel or think, even if they don't exist. Travel, love travel. Travel is so inefficient, right? Even if you book a direct flight might get delayed, plans change, you're rerouted, you fly to a new country, then you spend 3 or 4 days adjusting to the time change. But all of these things, like the long walks, the hanging out with friends, reading fiction books, traveling, like those are the moments that you remember. I think there's this conflation that efficient is best always. And if something is efficient, that means it's the best. But meaning and truth and the human experience is not always the same thing as efficiency. I would even argue that they are very rarely the same thing. Like the Venn diagram is not a circle. And kind of going off of that a little bit into my next point is like this feeling or this need to constantly self-improve. So many of us in the law, especially, like we are always wanting to improve, right? And that's not a bad thing. Like the Law Society, literally, if you practice in Ontario, I'm sure many other bar associations are the same. You have to do continuing professional development. That's literally what it's called. It's called continuing professional development, CPD. What is that? It's learning, it's growth, it's improving your skills as a lawyer, as a paralegal, workshops, fireside chats with judges, various programs. I went to one a little while ago called Anatomy of a Trial. It was like a 2-day program in Toronto. Friggin' loved it. I geeked out so hard. I had such a fun time, like watching these incredible lawyers in my industry just like put on this master class of, running a trial. I had a really great time. I had so much fun. And yeah, that was self-improvement as a lawyer. I learned a lot. I was exposed to some incredible litigators. That's self-improvement. That's literal professional development. But you don't have to treat every day of your life as though it is a CPD course. Not every book you read has to teach you something, right? You can just read because you like the story or you need something to help you fall asleep at night and it's not scrolling your phone. Not every workout needs to be optimized. Not every workout, not every time you choose to move your body needs to be the heaviest weight you've ever lifted or the fastest you've ever run or the sweatiest you've ever been after a workout class. You don't need to self-optimize that every single time. Not every hobby needs to have a goal. Not everything needs to become a side hustle that makes you money. Just think about the last time you did something simply because it was enjoyable, not because you were thinking it was going to make you smarter or richer or hotter or have a better chance, whatever. Like, when's the last time you just did something because you liked it? Not because it made you money, not because it improved your career, just because you liked it. And if you can't remember the last time you did something just because you liked it, I would ask you to please start. Just think about things you like doing and go do them. It's not that hard. It's not that complicated, and you have free will. I think one of the things that I've started to kind of try to retrain my brain on, and it's hard, is that not everything has to have some sort of like return on investment. I think this will resonate with a lot of lawyers out there, a lot of just people in general. You naturally ask yourself when you're, especially when you're a lawyer, like your inbox is full, you're getting calls, your boss needs you, your clerk needs you, the court needs you, like everyone needs you. And so you're constantly balancing all of these responsibilities, all of these priorities. Everyone makes it seem as though the house is on fire and you have to respond to every email immediately. And so every time you go to do something, you have to ask yourself, what's the benefit of doing this right now? What's the outcome? What's the value in doing this? Because sometimes, honestly, if an email comes into my inbox and it really doesn't require a response from me, there's no value in me responding, I don't respond. Like if someone asks me a question, yes, I'm going to respond because it's rude not to. And, I'm not an asshole. But if someone just sends me an email, just like, opposing counsel sends me the third time they're giving me the exact same thought on something, and I don't need to respond to it because I don't think it will have any value to the case or to my position or whatever, I don't respond. I file it and I move on with my life, right? Because like, what's the value? What's the benefit? But in life, things hold value without having to produce anything. Just like you inherently are valuable because you exist. And there are so many examples of this in life, things that are valuable, not only in spite of them not producing anything, but almost like because they don't produce anything, they hold value. What do I mean by that? Like watching a sunset or sunrise, like where's the inherent value in that? Do you get paid? No, but it's beautiful. I think it adds to your life. I think it reminds you of the beauty of the universe. That's nice. That's really nice. I mean, that's the inherent value, but it's not producing anything other than, maybe some feel good moments in your brain. Playing catch with your kids if you're a parent. You could be billing, you could be writing that memo, you could be on a work call, but you're playing catch with your kids. So you are choosing not to pick something that is a valuable, measurable outcome in your job to do something like have a nice bonding moment with your child. And that's the full story of it. It is a nice bonding moment with your child. You're creating memories, but that doesn't have some sort of like monetary value attached to it. I don't know, maybe they'll save money in therapy down the road, but there's no ROI on that. Do you know what I mean? So I remember speaking with one of my guests, Patrick, a little while ago, and someone was asking him, what's the ROI on your podcast or your project? And he's like, I don't fucking know. Nothing. Who cares? Which I thought was such a great answer because not everything needs an ROI. I would argue most things in life don't. I would say stop chasing that ROI and start chasing sunsets. Is that cheesy? I don't care. It's my podcast. I can say what I want. Who doesn't like a little cheese every now and then? I think too, and this is very true. I hear a lot of creatives talk about this, but like being unproductive actually is productive. Boredom is actually good for us. It's actually good to be bored sometimes. I don't know if maybe you're a parent, maybe you're an aunt like I am, or you are a teacher, you're around kids, right? Or teens. They don't have the opportunity to be freaking bored out of their minds anymore. Like when we were kids in the summer, like sometimes you'd just be really freaking bored and you would just like go knock on your friend's door and you would just walk around, and maybe you would go to Blockbuster and just like look at the movies, or maybe you would just sit in the grass and throw a ball up into the air and catch it for a couple hours. Like we were bored. And that was really, really good. Like being bored is good. Creativity, problem solving, just thinking about who you are, what you want. Those moments don't happen when you are chasing efficiencies and productivity. Those moments happen when you have time and space to breathe and be a little bored. We are constantly overstimulated in our jobs. We are constantly getting pings from email and texts or Teams messages or news pop-ups. And we are constantly, dealing with deadlines and to-do lists and full calendars. Like there's no empty space. Like there's no opportunity to be bored in the law. But your creativity and just like your sense of being human can really shine in those moments when you're bored. Just sitting or walking without your phone. Try going pee without your phone. Next time you go to the bathroom, go without your phone. Don't take a book. Don't take your phone. Don't take anything. Just go use the bathroom like a normal human being. And I am telling this to myself as much as I'm telling it to you. Go for a walk without audio. Go for a drive without the radio. Eat dinner without the TV on. Like, have those moments. Give your brain a rest. Give your mind space and time to simply be. Stop being so overstimulated. Like, daydream. Give yourself time to daydream. Go lay in the grass and look at the trees dancing in the wind and just watch the clouds. I swear to God, you'll not be mad at yourself for having done that for 5 or 10 minutes. But what happens if you never do that again? That's such a beautiful moment to have. We don't allow ourselves to have those moments. So just go be bored in your yard for a little bit. And lastly, this is one that I almost missed. I can't believe I almost missed this given the name of the podcast. But billable hours are a terrible way to measure life, right? Like, the professional part of our brain wants to value our time based on output. How much did I get done today? Look at my docket. I used to do this all the time when I was in private practice. Look at my docket. Oh, wow, today was a good day. I docketed 9.5 hours, or some days, God forbid, 12, 13 hours. Oh man, today was such a crap day. I only docketed like 4.5 hours. What even happened today? Where did that time go? Must have been a waste of a day because I only docketed this much, or I only did this many things. That's a really fucking bad way to measure your life and to measure your existence as a human on the earth. Your life isn't based on output. The value of your existence isn't based on output. The moments, I think, that we'll treasure the most are not likely to be the most productive. I had a family member that I lost, and I was in the hospital speaking to the nurses in the final days and speaking to those nurses. I had a lot of really great conversations with them because I was there for 9 or 10 hours. And these nurses were amazing. Like, if you know a nurse in your life, please just go give them a hug and buy them a coffee because, man, they do not get paid enough, I will tell you. But I'm going off topic, but that's okay. But I did have a lot of really good conversations with these nurses in the time that I had with them. And they would talk to me about things that they would hear from people in their final days. And none of it was about wishing they had worked more. It was all about, one of the nurses was telling me her next trip. She was planning to go to Portugal, and she was telling me how much she loved to travel. And any given moment, she would go on a trip because so many people that she had in there who were elderly or sick would tell her that they wish they would have traveled more. They wish they would have experienced those like trips more and taken more time off work, taken their vacation to go and see the world and explore or see more of their backyard. So she was really big on traveling as much as possible. Another nurse, he was incredible. He was a nurse's assistant, and he was telling me about how much he loved to play sports and be active because every day he woke up in his body and a body that moved and was healthy. And every day he did that was a good day. And since starting that job, he never took that for granted. I learned so much from these nurses. And none of this is anything you've not heard before, but I think it bears repeating and reminding ourselves that the moments that you will treasure most in your life are unlikely to be the ones where you were the most productive with the most output. It's going to be catching a sunset or a sunrise. It's going to be those family dinners or fun moments on vacations or travel. It's going to be funny stories arising from inconveniences. It's going to be moments where lingering turned into a connection. It's going to be friendships and conversations. And if we measure our life in the way we measure work, I think we're just missing the whole fucking point entirely. Sorry for the swearing if you're listening with kids. Hi, kids. I don't know. I feel like a a well-placed swear word can hold a lot of weight and value. So that's my justification. I think so many of us have become really skilled at optimizing our lives. We use AI, we use technology, we have so many systems that are really good at avoiding or minimizing inconvenience that we forget that a meaningful life isn't always the most efficient. Sometimes a conversation is going to run longer than planned, and your 5-minute coffee run turns into a 20-minute coffee run, but you just had a really lovely conversation with your postman. The best friendships don't have an agenda or objectives. It's not something to extract from others for your own benefit. It's just to witness another human being's existence and to have them witness yours and to be there for each other. You know, your best memories aren't going to be ones where you're productive. It might just be lying in the grass looking up at, those leaves dancing in the wind. And so maybe the goal isn't just to squeeze the most out of every single minute of your life, but maybe the goal is to just be like fully present for those minutes that you already have. So I guess I'll close by encouraging you to find or hold on to something in your life that you love doing, even though, I guess, in spite of or because it's completely and utterly inefficient with zero ROI. So that's the episode. If you are still listening, thank you for sticking around. I really appreciate you. I would ask that you please consider giving this podcast a rating on Apple or Spotify or wherever you're listening. And if you're a fan of video podcasts and podcasts with guests, I have those too. I've got a bunch already and I'll have more coming out in a couple months. So please go to the YouTube channel and subscribe there. Yeah, our set's a vibe. It's really fun to watch. And I have some incredibly amazing, hilarious, funny, brilliant guests. So come join the fun there. And until next time, take care of yourself, go outside, look at the sky, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.